sorry, I was just thinking about the Miami Hurricanes offense this season. I know I've been knocking the Canes lately, but I'm still super pumped and excited for this game. In this preview video today, we will be covering the Miami Hurricanes versus the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. These two teams are facing off this Saturday, November 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2 at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Now, I want to have a quick one-on-one with anybody who is new here. If you are, be sure to click that little subscribe button down below. It doesn't cost you a thing, and here's the deal. You can win some free swag by doing so. I'm going to be doing a lot of giveaways coming up soon. One of them coming up is giving away a Don't Be a Fan Later shirt. It does not come in just this color. There are lots of other choices, but this guy right here, a lot of people really love these shirts. The Don't Be a Fan Later. I think they're pretty dope. We're going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing some live game show type situations for you guys. It's going to be for the subscribers. But all you have to do to win these prizes is be subscribed to the channel. So be sure to do so if you're not already. So let's talk some history between these two teams. Miami and Georgia Tech have faced off 23 times in total, with Miami barely leading the series 12-11. Now keep in mind that the Canes have won the last 3 matchups, but the game last year was pretty close. Miami did win that game, however, 25-24. Now I do want to touch on a couple of quick key notes for this game. Coming up first, let's talk about Georgia Tech a little bit. This team has thrown the ball 2 times in the last 2 games. No, I'm not kidding. Now, here's the thing. Everybody knows that Georgia Tech runs that crazy triple option, whatever the heck they call it, offense. But 2 times they have thrown the ball in the last 2 games. Pretty crazy, right? The even crazier thing is that both of those passes were last week against North Carolina. So that means that their game before that against Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech didn't even pass the ball a single time. They ran the ball 78 straight times, totaling 465 rushing yards. Now, honestly, if you think about it, that shows some pretty big confidence in your execution and your run game, because you know that you're running the ball every time, and at some point the defense has to know you're running the ball every time, and you still run the ball every time, and you still win. Now here's where things get interesting though. Miami is struggling offensively. Absolutely, they are struggling offensively. As a matter of fact, the ship offensively has already sunk. So Miami fans, if you didn't get your life jacket, I'm sorry, but it's too late. But is Miami struggling defensively? Absolutely not. Miami is allowing an average of around 124 rushing yards per game. So Miami is pretty good at containing the run. And as we just touched on, what is Georgia Tech's specialty? The run. So I feel like this is going to be a really interesting matchup. But I do have to say, coming from a Miami fan, Georgia Tech, watching that crazy triple option offense is pretty entertaining. And I mean, if we're going to real talk for a second, a lot of times in these Georgia Tech games, I act like I'm following the ball and I know what's going on, but I'm just pretending I really have no idea. Now, unfortunately, both of these teams at this point in their seasons are fighting for a bowl game and their pride. Now, this will be Georgia Tech's annual whiteout game. So, fans and players alike will be decked out in their all-white gear for this game. So, let's hop over to some stats for these two teams coming into this game. Now, I'm going to put up a little graphic image right here that shows these numbers. So, keep in mind that your boy Coop is not a Photoshop expert, so it's a little sloppy, but it does give you something to look at. So coming into this game, Miami is averaging points per game 32. Georgia Tech is averaging 39. Now keep in mind that this number is a little misleading for Miami because this number was bumped up due to some games like FIU and North Carolina. They've been averaging about 10 to 12 points a game recently, so that's probably going to come down. Points allowed per game, Miami is allowing around 19. Georgia Tech is allowing around 28. Now, total yards per game, Miami is averaging 390. Georgia Tech is averaging 467. And yards allowed against them per game, Miami coming in at 265 and Georgia Tech coming in at 363. Now, a big stat that was very surprising to me after doing a little bit of research is that Georgia Tech so far this season has fumbled the football 28 times. Now, I know they run the ball a lot, but that seems like a lot of fumbles to me. So with the stats out of the way, let's get into some keys for a Miami victory in this game. Number one, and I'm going to put all of this under number one because if I'm going to be honest with you, this could probably be 1, 2, and 3 for the Miami Hurricanes. But number one, the QB situation needs to be figured out. Obviously, none of this QB hokey pokey. Play calling needs to improve. Obviously, Miami Hurricanes fans, we all know this. And the offense overall just needs to be better. And I honestly don't feel like I need to elaborate on these for the Miami fans or the Georgia Tech fans because we've all seen everything in the media. We all talk on social media. So we all know what needs to be done. Number two, and this is another point that has made the list several times this year and more than likely will continue to do so until we see some improvement, but special teams needs to have a big game. The Canes overall, in my opinion, have struggled in special teams so far this season. We've really just not been that explosive, honestly, on kick returns, punt returns, and again, our punt game has been lacking. Our kick game just in general has been lacking. So Miami needs to step up their game on special teams if they're going to beat Georgia Tech. And lastly, Miami's linebackers need to step up in this game. Where did those leaders go from last season? Because I'm pretty sure they returned, but they've been pretty quiet all year long. You know that Georgia Tech is going to run the ball. Without a shadow of a doubt, Georgia Tech will be running the ball probably 99.9% of the time in this game. And Georgia Tech's not going to try to hide it. We know it's coming. So, linebackers for Miami, be ready. So, moving on to keys for a Georgia Tech victory in this game. Number one, Georgia Tech needs to have better ball security in this game. I know that we already touched on it earlier in the video, but Georgia Tech has fumbled the ball 28 times so far this season. That needs to tighten up. If Georgia Tech wants to win this game, they cannot afford to have 2 or 3 or 4 fumbles. I realize that Miami has struggled creating points off of turnovers, but ball security for Georgia Tech needs to improve. And number two, Georgia Tech, you run the ball. It's what you do. And the thing is, just like every other team you've played, Miami knows that you're going to run the ball. So use that to your advantage. When you pass, everyone's caught off guard, including the cameraman. So use that to your advantage. And lastly, I know again that we mentioned this earlier, but it is the annual whiteout game for Georgia Tech. The crowd is going to be lit. Everybody knows it. The crowd is going to be so loud in this game. use that to your advantage. Harness that energy and take that noise and use it to your advantage in this game. Now, welcome to the most pointless part of this video. We've done this all season long, and I'm going to continue to do so. The ESPN matchup predictor percentage, they have Miami's win percentage chance coming in at 48.8% and Georgia Tech coming in at 51.2%. Now, I must say, I kind of like it this time, to be honest with you, because Miami has been favored in just about every game they have played, especially with this stat. So maybe we can win because ESPN did not pick us to win. But I kind of like being not favored and being the underdog. So for once, I kind of like the ESPN matchup predictor. And yes, of course, do not think Coop forgot my score prediction for this game. And I know what you're thinking. Everybody's on the edge of their seat right now. Because last week, I did something I've never done on this channel, and I predicted Miami to lose the Duke game. Now, I did also have a win prediction as well. Yes, I did 2 score predictions that involved the quarterbacks, but one of my predictions had Miami losing. So, a lot of you are asking yourself, Coop, what do you think about this Georgia Tech game? Who is going to win this game? This is at Georgia Tech's home stadium. This is their annual whiteout game. Well, you know what I say? Miami is going to pull out the dub at Georgia Tech, 20-13. Yeah, I guess my printer ran out of ink. I don't know what this green color is, but Miami is going to win the game, 20-13. A low-scoring game. Miami is still going to struggle to generate points. Honest to goodness, Miami is going to struggle to generate points in every game for the remainder of the season. But as I touched on earlier, Miami's defense is not struggling right now. And Georgia Tech is one of those teams I feel like you either gobble up that triple option or it just defeats you mentally and physically. And with the way that Miami Hurricanes defense is playing right now, I think that they are going to eat up that triple option that Georgia Tech has. They're going to cause several fumbles, and Georgia Tech is just going to have nothing left because all they can do is run the ball. So I do think Miami pulls out a win, 20-13. I don't think Miami will score a lot of points, but I do think they will contain that Georgia Tech run game. So let me know your score predictions down below. I do welcome Georgia Tech fans as well. If you have made it this far into the video, props to you, much respect. Leave your score prediction down below as well. But remember though, guys, we are all one big happy college football family. But at the end of the day, I gotta say it is always better when you get to rep the U. College football vids, peace out, guys. And I did want to give a special shout out to all of my Patreon supporters. Yes, I do have a Patreon page. I do want to let you know what exactly it is used for. Any monthly pledges that I get on Patreon are used for 3 different things. Number 1, they go towards upgrading equipment for the channel, so that means better and more frequent videos for you guys. Number 2, the monthly pledges go towards a prize pool for viewers and subscribers, so that means more free t-shirts for you guys. And lastly, I also take what's left and put it towards my monthly contribution to St. Jude. So thank you guys so much for your support on Patreon. You can check out a link to that, my Patreon page, down in the description below.